their audiences. Reach out to Minuteman Uptown and partner with a printer that shares your values. Call us today at 612-870-0777 or visit us at mpuptown.com. That's mpuptown.com.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for sunny skies today with a high near 86, tonight cloudy with a low around 67, and Wednesday partly sunny with a high around 79. Discover perfection at Maverick's Real Roast Beef in Roseville. From Philly steak to crispy chicken, every bite is exceptional. Add freshly fried fries or rings for a winning combo. Visit mavericksbeef.com or find them off Lexington and Roseville. Unforgettable sandwiches. Maverick's Real Roast Beef.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Broadcasting from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and airing on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Welcome to the Gaily Show, the only daily LGBTQ progressive radio news and talk show in the United States. I am your host, John Parker. I am solo today in the newsroom. Thankfully, Patrick is in the control room. Hey, Patrick, how are you today?
Good afternoon. How's your day going?
It's been a day.
Kind of feels like how most days are lately. It's a day.
Yeah, there's some stuff happening. I'm not going to share on the radio. We'll just leave it ominous like that. Hopefully everything is going to turn out the way that it needs to. But yeah. Anyway, what is on the show today? A federal court on Friday granted a temporary restraining order against the Trump administration when they tried to restrict grant funding for organizations serving survivors of domestic and sexual violence, unhoused populations, and LGBTQ youth. U.S. Olympics has officially banned trans women athletes. And the workplace, Christians who are federal employees can now try to convert you to Christianity if you are also a federal employee. Speaking of Christians, a Catholic school in Oregon denied enrollment to a kid. Actually, I'm sorry, rescinded enrollment to a kid because they found out his parents are gay. So much for Pope Francis's legacy. More on that in the second half hour of the program. But first, the shootings in New York and Las Vegas. So these are updates from AP News as of Tuesday afternoon. In New York City, the victims included New York City police officer Duradul Islam, Blackstone exec Wesley LePatner, and security officer Alain Etienne. An NFL employee was seriously injured and is in stable condition right now, according to the league commissioner, Roger Goodell. 4 others received minor injuries attempting to flee. According to the AP News, the New York PD have identified Shane Tamura of Las Vegas as the gunman. His motivation and reasoning were immediately not clear. They claim that he had a documented mental health history. The police commissioner, Jessica Tisch, said he had a rifle case, a revolver, magazines, and ammunition in his car. They did find, investigators, a 3-page note in his wallet where he apologized multiple times and asked that his brain be studied for chronic traumatic encephalopathy, according to the police department. CTE is a brain disease. It is degenerative. It can only be diagnosed after you have passed away. The note referenced a former NFL player, Terry Long, who also had CTE discovered after he passed away. Long killed himself in 2005. In the note, there's an accusation against the NFL for concealing the dangers to players' brains because they want to keep football as is. And so they downplay the risks that are there in professional American football. The research is pretty clear. There is a link between CTE and contact sports, as well as military combat and other activities that involve being hit in the head multiple times a day, a week, a season. The NFL has denied this. for a long time, acknowledged it in testimony to Congress a number of years ago, and has paid over $1 billion to players to settle concussion-related claims. But that was last night. That was Monday night. Monday morning in Vegas, a gunman opened fire at a casino, killed 3 people before being taken into custody. The suspected shooter was at the Grand Sierra Resort and was among those transported to a hospital. And I'm solo here in the studio here today. So if you're in the 2 p.m. hour and you want to join this conversation, 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205 on your thoughts about a shooting in America, a mass shooting in America is just a way of life now. We all know this. And after the New York shooting last night, I was reading about, or Monday night rather, I was reading about New York Governor Hochul calling on Congress to repeal the unbanning of weapons of war, essentially, with this type of gun that the shooter had in New York City. And I rolled my eyes at that because the issue isn't the type of gun. There needs to be, on the left, progressives, liberals, Democrats, and I know what you're all going to say, oh, it's impossible. I don't care. The work needs to be repeal and replace the Second Amendment. That is the work in front of us. There is literally no gun regulation law that will pass this Supreme Court because of the Second Amendment. The only way is to repeal and replace the Second Amendment. And I say this as a queer person who does think about, okay, if I am in a queer club, someone could come in with a gun and start shooting it up. And that has happened. When I worked in higher education on a college campus, we had to think about if someone would come in with a gun. We used to have conversations about, well, if someone was going to do that, these were the entrances that they would come in and do that. Having signs saying, you can't carry guns on premise doesn't stop a shooter. So the work needs to be around repealing and replacing the Second Amendment. And if you are not on board with that, then what are we doing here? Exactly. Oh, I have a caller. It says Jim. Is that my Jim? Jim, can you hear me? Jim, are you there?
Hello, John. Hi, John. How are you? I'm at an
You're at an undisclosed location, and I had a feeling you might call in when you heard this because I know you hate it when I talk about repeal and replace because you don't think it's going to happen. But I am the host of the show, so go ahead. What's your word on this?
Actually, what I was hearing was you're talking about the danger of football, not only professional, but I wanted to add that it's equally dangerous at the college level and the high school level. So I was just going to add to your thoughts about that.
Yeah, I know that is an issue that you're very concerned about. And I think it goes all the way down into high school football. You just said that too, right? High school football?
Yep. And I want to make sure you're drinking water and staying hydrated.
Oh, well, thank you for that. Yes, I am.
All right. I'll let you go on with your conversation. Second Amendment, I don't know. That's you're right. That's the cornerstone, but wow, are we a long way from people even understanding what that is, much less doing something about it.
Well, this is the thing, though, is that how long, we're watching The Gilded Age right now, Jim and I, and, they're having the conversations. It takes place at the end of the 1800s. They're already having the conversations about Jim, do you need to go?
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They're having conversations about the 19th Amendment, what would ultimately be the 19th Amendment, voting rights for women. That took decades. And I think that progressives and Democrats, liberals, it's the left needs to get on board with the idea that, yes, it will take time, but if we don't start having the conversation now, if we don't start saying repeal and replace the Second Amendment, look, they gave us the phrase MAGA when it came to the Affordable Care Act, right? Repeal and replace. We can do that. We can repeal the Second Amendment and then replace it with, there is a right to guns subject to the regulation of Congress. Right. And then if Congress wants to get rid of all of the gun control, fine, they can get rid of it. But we also have the ability to implement gun control, and the Supreme Court can't just sit there and knock it all down.
Right. And I don't think, my feeling has always been, why do we have, war weapons? That's not what citizens should have under any circumstances.
But the Supreme Court can just say, Congress can ban an assault rifle, can ban them, those weapons. And the Supreme Court will just say, no, you can't do that. Second Amendment.
Right. I know. Well, I mark me as a supporter of getting rid of the Second Amendment.
There we go. And I say this as a queer person who you think about, I challenge, are there queer people who go to Pride and don't think about, there could be a shooter at Pride? Are there queer people that don't think about going into a club or a bar and think, someone could come here and shoot this? At a college campus, we had to think about, we do trainings, if a shooter is in here, this is what you have to do if they come onto campus. I remember after January 6th, when there were a bunch of high school kids that were saying, we've grown up with shooter trainings our entire lives. And there were a lot of kids that were like, we've been in shooting scenarios. And now Congress people are finally figuring out that this can happen to them. So for me, it's no longer plausible. If you are not on board with repeal and replace the Second Amendment, then I really don't want to hear these, how is it more practical for Governor Hochul to say Congress should pass a ban on assault rifles with the Supreme Court?
Right.
Because it's just going to be overdone. The only way to stop this is to repeal and replace the Second Amendment.
Like you always do, you take the problem not on the edges where I'm more comfortable, but right down the middle, and good for you.
I think it's time that we acknowledge how radical the Supreme Court is and will continue to be, which is why I also say I am not voting for any Democratic candidate that isn't on board with reforming the Supreme Court immediately as action number one on their first day in office in 2029, because the Supreme Court will undo everything that they try to do. The Supreme Court is out of control. They need to be reined in. They do not represent America. And if you care about gun violence in this country, you need to be on board with repealing and replacing the Second Amendment. And I apologize, Jim, we got to go into a break. You can check out more progressive news and talk at am950radio.com and heartlandsignal.com. You can keep the conversation going on Blue Sky. We're at thegaleyshow.org on Blue Sky. You're listening to The Gailey Show on AM950 and WCPT 820.
Food, music, family. Discover the Slavic experience. Saturday, August 2nd and Sunday, August 3rd at The Rock in St. Louis Park. Polish music from Polka King, Ukrainian band Yev, gypsy music, a donut eating contest, fashion show. Whether you're a Slavic immigrant, have roots in one of the 14 Slavic nations, or simply want to experience Slavic culture, don't miss Slavic Experience, August 2nd and 3rd at The Rock in St. Louis Park. For more information, slavicexperience.com.
When was the last time you had your roof inspected for extreme weather and hail damage? This is Chad, owner of AM 950, to talk about the exterior construction company I trust, Snap Construction. If you've noticed new roofing projects in your neighborhood, your home was likely hit by hail last summer and experienced damage. Snap Construction is helping homeowners like you, and they're the roofing specialists I trust. They are the most well-reviewed contractor in the Twin Cities and have a ton of positive customer reviews from homeowners just like you. Even better, Snap Construction's installations are backed by a lifetime warranty, so you know you're dealing with a qualified roofing expert. You want to work with a company that will be here for a long time after the work is done. Snap Construction has handled thousands of claims and will help you through the process. Do yourself a favor and get a free roofing inspection so you have the facts and peace of mind you deserve. Call Snap Construction today at 612-333-SNAP. That's 612-333-SNAP, or visit snapconstruction.com.
Turn to Auto Technical with your vehicle donation. We have families waiting for a car. You know, over 85% of unemployed are successful in finding and keeping a job if they have dependable transportation. A car plus a job equals a life changed. 612-919-5526. We have families waiting for a car. 919-5526 or autotech.org.
Peace of mind shouldn't cost a fortune. We keep things simple at Schroman Law because we believe planning for your estate and end-of-life care shouldn't be stressful or expensive. Every client relationship starts with a free consultation so clients have the information they need before making important decisions. From there, we work closely with clients to ensure they are choosing the most efficient and cost-effective plans for their specific needs. Schedule a free consultation today at schromenlaw.com. That's SCHROMEN law.com.
Greg Bakken here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh, every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville.
Welcome back to the Gailey Show. I am John Parker. We are coming up on the bottom of the hour. If you're listening in the 2 p.m. Central Hour, we can take your calls, 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Okay, this is a story that just came out. I first heard about it on the Thom Hartmann show. The federal government, so the Office of Personnel Management, has issued a new memo, came out just this week, called Protecting Religious Expression in the Federal Workplace. And the OMP director, Scott Cooper, in that memo said, quote, employees must be allowed to engage in private religious expression in work areas to the same extent that they may engage in non-religious private expression. And this includes that employees may engage in conversations regarding religious topics with fellow employees, including attempting to persuade others of the correctness of their own religious views, provided that such efforts are not harassing in nature. Not assuming that could be harassing. Just at the outset, apparently, employees, the memo continues, may also encourage their coworkers to participate in religious expressions of faith, such as prayer, to the same extent that they would be permitted to encourage coworkers to participate in other personal activities. Okay. I understand part of where this is coming from. Well, I mean, let me put this another way. I worked as a chief diversity officer in higher education. And there would be employee resource groups. We would create employee resource groups. And these were largely for communities that we would see in climate surveys, campus climate surveys of, how are they feeling about the organization? Could we make the campus better for them, right? And so a lot of times we saw for people of color, for LGBTQ folks, sometimes for very specific cultural communities like Latinx, Latina populations that would want things. Veterans was always something that we'd usually come up on climate assessment surveys, and how do we create spaces, right, for them? Inevitably, and it was always Christians would come running in and saying how unfair it was that they couldn't also have their own group. And there was a separation of church and state, and so to a degree there could be interest groups, right? But there were a lot of regulations on how we would do Christmas displays and whatnot, because we didn't want students coming in here and saying this is a Christian college because these are the only holidays that you're celebrating are Christians ones, and you're putting a specific like you couldn't have a nativity scene, but you could have a snowman. That's the level right that we're getting at here. And everywhere I've worked in higher education, the Christian employees would be all up in arms about this, right? The gays, they can have their own thing and they can do rainbows and pride and anytime they want, but we can't do anything. Okay. Well, now apparently you can. Apparently you can ask your coworker to go have happy hour, and that is equally the same as trying to convert them to Christianity. And I guess the thing in there that provided that such efforts are not harassing in nature, who is going to enforce that? Right? Because right now, if Joe Schmo comes up to me in the workplace and says, "Have you accepted Jesus as your personal Lord and Savior?" And I go to HR and say, "Hey, as a queer person, I find this offensive. He's harassing me. I don't want him doing that again." That HR is probably not going to do anything about it. Why? Because Joe Schmo will immediately run to the Facebook or to Twitter and start complaining about the HR department suppressing their Christian identity and how they're anti-Christian, and then all of the MAGA machine will pick up and run on it. Or there's going to be a lawyer advising the organization that's just going to be like, this administration, just let it go because this administration is litigious. So I highly doubt that there's going to be anybody that is going to define what harassing means and then enforce that. Because the real snowflakes in this world, I'm sorry, are the straight cis Christian men are the most snowflakes of all of the snowflakes in this country. And I just think that it's, this is, I don't even, it's so bonkers. It's so bonkers to me that they are doing this right now. Employers, including the federal government, are actually barred from discriminating on religious grounds under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. And employers have to accommodate religious beliefs. If it is Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, Christianity, I know prayer rooms were always a big thing in the schools that I worked at. Weirdly, now the Christians want to be able to proselytize and try to, convert their employees to accept Jesus into their hearts. But if we had a prayer room for Muslim students or employees, that was the end of the world. No religion on campus. Va te faire foutre is what I have to say to that. But, here we are. So the Christians essentially get to have everything that they want. And all the other religions, no, screw that. There was an executive order that was put out earlier this year, literally called Eradicating Anti-Christian Bias. It's part of which established the White House Faith Office. Queer people have been talking about the rise of Christian nationalism and how the MAGA movement wants to completely make this country Christian, from the schools to the workplaces to the government. And I think a lot of independents and progressives and whomever, when you think, oh, they can't do that, separation of church and state, blah, blah, blah. They are winning. They are winning. They are banning books out of schools because of the Bible. Now they can try to convert you to join Christianity in the workplace. They are denying, we're going to talk about this later on. They're continuing to deny kids. This is a straight kid whose parents were gay, and they don't allow, the Catholic school was like, no, we're rescinding your offer of enrollment because we just found out your parents are gay. They are shutting down and trying to shut down any hospital that offers LGBTQ healthcare because that goes against Christianity, apparently. They are already radically transforming this country on healthcare, education, and in the workplace. And now the federal workforce. And the federal workforce is usually an area where an administration will try out policies before they go into the private sector. So here we go. If you don't realize the extent to which this country has already become a Christian nationalist country, unfortunately, you're not paying attention. They have their claws in. None of this show is possible without our generous advertisers and sponsors. I know this has been a bummer of a day, but tell them you heard about them on The Gailey Show. Shop with them, do business with them. You're listening to AM 950 and WCPT 820.
Hello, Minnesota. This is Stephanie Miller. Make sure to start your day off right with the Stephanie Miller Show every weekday morning from 8 to 11 right here on AM 950.
You can't have too much pride, and Fargo-Moorhead Pride is proving it again this year, August 8th through 11th. It's one of the region's largest pride celebrations, drawing people from across Minnesota, the Dakotas, and even Canada. Just a little over 3 hours from the Twin Cities, you'll find 4 days packed with celebration, community, and fun at Fargo-Moorhead Pride. It all kicks off Thursday, August 8th with a family fun night, trivia, and a karaoke party. Then Friday features an all-ages drag show and a high-energy dance party. Saturday brings a 5K fun run, patio palooza, and the big Pride Block party. And on Sunday, everything wraps up with an interfaith service and the Pride Parade through downtown Fargo. Pride in the Park is one of the weekend's biggest events, offering food trucks, community vendors, and live entertainment everyone can enjoy. Make the road trip and show your pride at Fargo-Moorhead Pride, August 8th through the 11th. Full schedule and details at fmpride.com.
The place for live music is the Park Tavern. Live music is taking over the Park Tavern's dog-friendly patio. Head over on Tuesday, July 29th. It's the Blue Drifters. Wednesday, July 30th. It's J-Dog and the Misfits. And on Thursday, July 31st, it's the Gut Buckets. Music runs from 5:30 to 8 p.m. and reservations for groups of 8 or more are recommended. And the Park Tavern offers private and semi-private spaces for small and large groups with no room fees and no minimum spending requirements. On Louisiana Avenue, north of Highway 7 in St. Louis Park, outdoor live music is back at the Park Tavern.
ATN FM 950 St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul. Hey, it's Patrick for Zero Res. The month of July is National Carpet Cleaning Month, and because of that, Zero Res is offering a purchase of 3 rooms of carpet cleaned. Get 1 room free plus $50 off an air duct cleaning. Maybe you're having a barbecue for the 4th of July. We'll also have Aquatennial coming up in Minneapolis later this month. You want to make sure your home is fresh and clean for your friends and family coming over to celebrate. If your carpet's looking more like a snowbank in late March, muddy, crunchy, and kind of mysterious, it's time to call Zero Res, don't you know? These folks come in with their fancy schmancy ZR water. It's like regular water, but with a master's degree in cleanliness. Zero Res can handle it all. Carpets, tiles, rugs, upholstery, air ducts, basically every surface in your home can be Zero Resified. So it's time to call the cleaning pros at Zero Res today. Schedule your appointment at ZeroResMinnesota.com or call 952-ZERO-RES and ask for the AM 950 special. Backward or forward spells the same. Zero Res.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for sunny skies today with a high near 86, tonight cloudy with a low around 67, and Wednesday partly sunny with a high around 79. Discover perfection at Maverick's Real Roast Beef in Roseville. From Philly steak to crispy chicken, every bite is exceptional. Add freshly fried fries or rings for a winning combo. Visit mavericksbeef.com or find them off Lexington and Roseville. Unforgettable sandwiches. Maverick's Real Roast Beef.
Coming to you from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and airing on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Welcome back to The Gailey Show. I'm your host, John Parker. We are 33 minutes after the hour. Before the break, we were talking about how there is a new memo outlining how Christians in the federal workforce can now try to convert their colleagues to Christianity. And I was making the observation that MAGA is not attempting anymore to make this country a Christian nationalist country. They have partially already succeeded, and they are going forward in it. One of the little bits of this proving that in the Supreme Court decision, Mahmoud versus Taylor, that the Supreme Court decided earlier this year, which essentially gives churches and mosques and imams, frankly, the ability to veto curriculum that is pro-LGBTQ is because the justices were apparently pointing out that it can cost too much money for parents to send their kids to a religious school where the curriculum matches their faith. And because that cost is too onerous, then we have to have pro-religion content curriculum in their schools. That they can't be expected, these kids, to have curriculum that doesn't comply with their faith tradition in the schools, which again, slippery slope. First it's the gays, then pretty soon, it'll be climate change, evolution, and already we're seeing in Oklahoma where the kids are having to get Bibles and verses, and they're learning that the election was stolen in 2020. In Oregon last week, parents at this is from LGBTQ Nation and also reporting from the Oregonian. In May, there was a open St. Agatha's Catholic Church had a open house. A couple took their kids there, and they said in the Oregonian that their child, this is a quote, "Our child had such a great day there. After I picked him up, we went to the park, and when we drove back by, he said, 'Look, there's my school.'" The parents applied. They got a letter of acceptance to the St. Agatha's Catholic Church School. And then in July, this month, the school's principal refunded their check. Reverend Father Luan Tran told them that he, quote, "wanted to protect young children from seeing families like ours, and that having our family to be part of the school could be perceived as a scandal," the parents said. Reverend Tran, the parent, goes on to say, they are anonymous, by the way. That's why the parents wanted to be anonymous in this reporting. So the parents said that Reverend Chan said that in Catholicism, marriage is between a man and a woman, and what would it do to the other kids in the class to find out that our kids have two parents of the same sex? These parents haven't yet had the heart to tell their child that he won't be going to the school that he had such an affinity for. Parents have found out what's going on there, and there is a uproar happening. Carrie Camper is a parent of two graduates from St. Agatha's, wrote to the Reverend and said that her family would immediately pause any financial support to the school and would advocate and go out into the community and ask others to do the same until, quote, "a more inclusive and compassionate approach is restored." Camper wrote in her letter to St. Agatha's, quote, "to exclude a family based on sexual orientation contradicts the teachings of Jesus, who welcomed the marginalized and loved without condition." In a letter to parents, Reverend Tran said that, "I am writing to you today to address a recent decision concerning the enrollment of a new family at St. Agatha Catholic School. I want to be clear and transparent in sharing that this decision was made solely under my pastoral authority and discernment as pastor of both the parish and the school." The Archdiocese overseeing St. Agatha's is also taking a conservative turn. And last year, the Office for the Mission of Catholic Education said that their new mission statement is, quote, "a clear and unifying vision of what in the heart and mind of the Catholic Church must be a true Catholic." Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, having this type of teaching is what a true Catholic school needs to fulfill its mission. So, there was Pope Francis who said, "Who am I to judge?" And he allowed for blessings of same-sex unions in particular cases. Well, apparently we're just going to throw that out the window. One of the parents interviewed in the story for the Oregonian said that they're considering pulling their child from the school until the Reverend Tran reverses his decision and offers an apology, but has said, I'm torn about that because my kid has been incredibly happy there and the teachers have been amazing. Yeah, just not to the children of queer kids. If you don't think that Christian nationalism has been established in the United States, it has been. It's already here. And there's going to have to be a lot of work to be done to reestablish the separation of church and state in this country. And it's going to have to uproot a lot of things that have already been put into place here by and solidified by the Trump administration, both 1.0 and 2.0, which is very scary. And it's going to have to be something that we need to be addressing. And whomever the next Democratic administration is going to be in 2029. All right. Turning to some quasi good news. A federal court this past Friday granted a temporary restraining order against the Trump administration, who tried to restrict grant funding for organizations that were serving survivors of domestic and sexual violence, LGBTQ youth, and unhoused populations. Of course, President Trump issued a series of executive orders that prohibited the use of federal dollars to support any diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, programs, positions, along with transgender rights. So the U.S. Departments of Health and Human Services and Housing and Urban Development, they started restricting and suspending and canceling grants. Democracy Forward, this is per reporting in the Washington Blade. Christopher Kane, who joins us bi-weekly on Wednesdays, he was with us last week and will return next week, I believe. He's writing that Democracy Forward, one of the groups representing the plaintiffs in the case, so they are a legal organization, characterized the restrictions as an attempt to impose ideological and political limits on funding that was already authorized by Congress through a variety of acts, legal acts. Those were the Violence Against Women Act, the Family Violence Prevention and Services Act, and the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act. The loss of these federal grant dollars would have been existential to all of the organizations that were plaintiffs in the lawsuit, and more beyond that. There have been a couple of letters from Senate Democrats to the HUD Secretary, Scott Turner, HUD being Housing Urban Development Department. Again, here we see, where you see this DEI calls on the diversity, equity, inclusion, and we need to get rid of that. It's hand in hand with get rid of diversity, equity, and inclusion and put MAGA Christianity in. MAGA Christianity being a very important thing here because there is literally a Trump Bible that he has there. And I know if you listen to AM 950 and you listen to WCPT 820, you are very familiar with John Fugelsang, who does really amazing work demonstrating how MAGA Christians are not actually Christians and they don't actually follow the Bible. John identifies as a Christian and does a really good job going through all of the theology of, how they are just not blatantly not following the actual teachings of Jesus and in the Bible. A really great clip of him on CNN a few weeks ago at one of those random town halls that they're town halls where they get 40 people around a table, an expert panel, and then everybody's shouting at each other. It's absolutely impossible to watch. I don't know why they keep doing that. It's much better. I like what the other, how Fox News and MSNBC format it, have 2 to 3 guests and talk to them, have it moderated, but these panels that they have on CNN where it's 17 people and they're all screaming at each other. Anyway, there's one recently where John Fugelsang is there and he's just throwing out Bible verses at people, and the MAGA folks literally have no idea how to respond to it because they probably never heard of those Bible verses because they don't read the Bible. But when you see the getting rid of what I'm telling you from my experience as a former chief diversity officer, as someone who worked in higher education, as someone who works in LGBTQ policy, as someone who's dealing with the news on a daily basis. Right now, when you see let's get rid of DEI, that's not then just creating a void. It's get rid of DEI so that we can put in MAGA Christianity. And we see it again this week with the memo to allow federal Christian employees to begin to proselytize and try to convert their colleagues. I wonder what it is like to live in a country where I don't have to have my life shaped by a religion I don't practice. Why should my healthcare be determined by a religion that I don't practice? Why should the curriculum in my classroom as a kindergartner, as a 6th grader, as a 10th grader be determined by a religion that I do not practice? We're talking about the separation of church and state. We talk about freedom of religion, blah, blah, blah. There's an organization, Freedom from Religion, and I'm going to try to get them on here to talk about this, even though we're going to be on the same page here. But where is that? I'm tired of, I'm exhausted of hearing about freedom of religion. I want freedom from religion. I do not want to have the choices of my life dictated by a faith that I do not practice. If I am not a Christian, if I am not Muslim, if I am not Jewish, then I do not have to live under their laws. I should not have to live under their laws. And for 44 years, I have been subject to laws that I do not practice, a faith tradition that I am not a part of. And I don't want to hear about not all Christians. That's great. Go be Christian. There are a lot of queer people that are Catholic. There are a lot of queer people that are Christian. They are doing amazing work to try and make Christianity and churches and Catholic churches, all of them, more inclusive. Great. Go do that work. You have my support. But I am not going to sit here and have to live my life as a Christian because I am not one. And we do have a government that is now it's established. I keep repeating myself, but I'm repeating myself because I want this point to land. We are currently living in a Christian nationalist state. They're not trying to implement it. It's here. It's done. It's not complete, but it's here. We're going to take a break. This is a really depressing show. See, this is what happens when Jim isn't here. It just, goes right off the rails. One last break to get to. You can keep the conversation going on Blue Sky. We're at thegailyshow.org on Blue Sky. Also, in Minnesota, you can sign up for the AM 950 newsletter for more on The Gailey Show and all of AM 950's shows. Stay tuned. More after the break.
Margaret Cho is coming to Minneapolis, and she's not holding back. Choligarchy is Margaret Cho's new comedy tour that's tackling power, privilege, and the madness of modern America. Frustrated with the State of the Union? Well, so is Cho. She's turning that rage into her most blistering, brutally honest show yet, taking on racism, homophobia, and sexism with her signature wit and fearless comedy. Don't miss Margaret Cho at the Fillmore in Minneapolis on Thursday, March 26th, 2026. Tickets on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. That's Ticketmaster.com.
Chanhassen Dinner Theaters brings you its most popular show of all time, Grease. You'll hear all your favorite hits from the Broadway musical and the movie. Join the whole gang at Rydell High. We'll sing, we'll dance, we'll bring you back to high school life in the 50s. Poodle skirts, bobby socks, the soda shop, and drive-in movies. Grease! It'll rock your socks off. Order your tickets today. Visit chanhassendt.com.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces is having their annual sale for the entire month of July. All of their indoor and outdoor fireplace products and accessories are at the lowest price of the year.
Did you know that now there's also a 30% federal tax credit when you install an efficient wood heating stove or fireplace? At Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, we can explain and show you the many options. We have the Twin Cities' widest selection of wood-burning stoves and fireplaces.
I love my wood stove. We enjoy the sense of well-being we get by cutting and splitting wood to warm our home. Wood is our choice, but you may have other choices at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces. Whether transforming an existing fireplace or adding something new, a clean-burning wood, gas, or electric fire can have you sitting pretty and cozy by the fire.
Visit Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces at Riverside and East Franklin Avenue in Minneapolis or at woodlandstoves.com. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, since 1977, out of the ordinary products and services to make fire work for you.
Think your company's safe? Your staff is working from home, right? As I speak, cyber criminals are mounting attacks across the country. Remember, when we're weakest, cyber criminals attack. Hi, Mark Sommerfeld from Rymark. The Rymark team is guiding our clients through these difficult times. In fact, demand has been so high, we created an easy-to-follow guide. It's yours free. Download our 5 steps to securely work from home now at rymarkit.com or call 651-328-8900 for a no-cost how-to discussion.
Turn to Auto Technical with your vehicle donation. Even though Auto Technical is a small nonprofit, we have helped more families with transportation than any organization in Minnesota. Since '94, we have reconditioned donated vehicles so they have a higher tax benefit. Call Richard at 612-919-5526, 612-919-5526, or autotech.org.
Welcome back to the Gailey Show. I'm John Parker. We are coming up on the top of the hour. That was mellow music, maybe a little moody. Thank you for that, Patrick. Kind of trying to chill me out, even though my next topic isn't going to chill me out. So, all right. U.S. Olympics has officially, quietly tried to keep it under the radar, but they did officially ban trans women athletes. The great issue of our time. It isn't climate change. It isn't tariffs. It isn't the economy. No, it's trans people participating in sports. They made the rule change last week as part of their quote-unquote athlete safety policy. Subsection of that policy now says the U.S. OPC is committed to protecting opportunities for athletes participating in sport. The U.S. OPC will continue to collaborate with various stakeholders with oversight responsibilities, e.g. IOC, etc., to ensure that women have a fair and safe competition environment consistent with Executive Order 14201 and the Ted Stevens Olympic and Amateur Sports Act. So that executive order is Trump's anti-trans policy order. So yes, there are, executive orders are not acts of legislation. They are not laws unto themselves, but they become policy when organizations like the United States Olympics Committee, Olympic and Paralympic Committee, say, hey, yeah, because of this executive order, now we're changing how we are doing things. Did you know that in Minnesota and California for the past 10 years, we've had trans athletes participating in sports? No incidents. None. For folks that are like, oh my gosh, we can't have that. That must be absolutely awful. This is just starting. This is just happening. How can we have this? Dude, it's been happening for a decade. Okay? Without incident. And you can say, oh, the science, this, the science, that. The science, what we don't have in the science is longitudinal studies. You can sit there and throw at me well, even after 12 months of being on estrogen, there's still biological advantages. Well, if you look at studies that go at 24 months of being on estrogen, then those supposed biological advantages start to go away. What you're not telling me about, though, is let's take a high school in Greater Illinois or in Greater Minnesota. If we have a girls' high school basketball team where all the players are ranging from 5'6" to 5'10", and then a new player comes in, transfers in, and she's 6'5". She's going to be taller. She's going to have more muscle mass. She's going to be stronger and faster than all of those other players. Is it fair to have her participate? The average height of a WNBA player is like 6'4" or 6'7". In fencing, I know folks who have listened to a while, they know this. In fencing, the biological advantage that's the greatest is if you're left-handed. That's more likely to be a determinant. Sport is biological advantage. We may say that it's not, but it is. If you can kick a football, a real football, soccer, with your left foot, you have a biological advantage over other players who are only right-footed. The best ones in the world can kick with their left foot because it's harder for goalkeepers because most goalkeepers are right-handed. So it's harder for them to defend that. That is a complete fluke. Not everybody can do it. Not everybody's left-handed in fencing. And I cannot believe that this is the great issue of our time that we have to keep talking about over and over and over again. And again, all of this deriving out of Christianity and Christian nationalism, which we have now here officially in the United States. It's here. If you are asked by someone from France, if you are asked by someone from South Africa, if you are asked by someone from India, you should be saying that you live in a Christian nationalist country. Because the policies and the laws and your health insurance and the school curriculum and your athletics policies are all being governed by MAGA Christianity. As you're driving in your car right now, say out loud, I live in a Christian nationalist country. And it feels weird, doesn't it? It feels very weird and it feels very scary, but it is the reality. So you can sit there and say the science. The science is not definitive. And suddenly Christians care about science? Like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? The EPA right now, Trump's EPA, is trying to undo a critical finding that says carbon emissions lead to climate change. They're trying to get rid of that because they don't like it. The science. There's no science proving climate change. Oh, only 99% of all the scientists in the world, the 1% who actually are trying to get a book deal and to get a speaking deal on Fox News, they don't believe in it because they see money out of it. All the other scientists are like, no, yeah, this is a thing. Being intersex, being trans, gender nonconforming, that's all a real thing. But no. We only believe the science when it aligns with our attempts to discriminate. And even then, the science isn't supporting them. The science does not support bans on trans athletes. It does not. Because you can sit there and point to biological advantages, and there are other biological advantages that folks have. Like in my metaphorical high school girls basketball team on height. Anyway, I'm going to end the show there today. Hopefully Jim will be back with me tomorrow. But if you're listening in Chicago on WCPT 820, it's Chew's Views with Richard Chew. On AM 950, it's the Matt McNeil Show now. Stay tuned after that for Native Roots Radio, and then step into the unknown at 10 p.m. Central with Greg Bakken on Ghost Box Radio. And stay tuned, same time, same place tomorrow. Until then, keep it queer, America.
Hey, it's Tom.